Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. UFC Vegas 77, Holly Holm versus Mayra Bueno Silva just ended, and this is going to be my full card post-fight. I'm going to go through every single fight on the card and give you my reaction and analysis, starting off with the first fight of the night, Ailin Perez versus Ashlee Evans-Smith. Ew! Honestly, I want to just leave it at that, but this was a horrible fight. This was one of the worst fights I've ever seen. This was an abomination. This was an atrocity. I want them both cut from the organization. Ailin Perez basically just out-grappled her for the entire fight. She landed some shots on the feet. There were some points in like the second and third round where Evans-Smith would kind of scramble back to her feet and then get taken back down. This was the quintessential example of bottom-of-the-barrel UFC fighters. And I know Ashlee Evans-Smith hasn't fought in like 3 years, and now she's 6-6. But to watch this on a UFC card, if I would have watched this 5 years ago and you told me, oh, this is in the future on a UFC card, I wouldn't have believed you. This was a horrible fight. Both girls looked horrible. I wasn't impressed by either one's performance. Ashlee Evans-Smith just basically got out-grappled and destroyed. Almost finished in the first round with ground and pound, but she found a way to scramble out of the positions. But this was an abomination on the card. Moving up on the card, Alex Munoz versus Carl Deaton III. This was an interesting fight. Honestly, I thought this fight could have went either way. It was a unanimous decision win for Alex Munoz. I forgot to say, Ailin Perez won via unanimous decision, but Alex Munoz gets it done. First two rounds were very, very close because you would have moments for Munoz where he would hurt Deaton, but not crazy badly. And then Deaton was throwing more volume in those rounds. The first and second round I really thought were toss-ups. Deaton was landing some good shots. Munoz was kind of being inactive, not throwing a whole lot of volume. And then Munoz would shoot in on takedowns. Deaton would see the shots coming from a mile away, would stuff them. Munoz in the third round, though, hurt Deaton badly, almost finished him, dominated him in the third round. You could arguably give him a 10-8 in the third round. But ultimately, Alex Munoz basically outstruck him to the win because I think two judges gave him like a 30-26, and I think one judge said 29-28 for Munoz, so they at least gave one round to Deaton. But honestly, going into that decision, I didn't know who was going to get the win, but I feel like Alex Munoz was the better fighter. He got it done with his striking. He had the big third round, landed the bigger shots throughout the fight, but it wasn't like he was rocking him badly in like the second round, and then Deaton would come back and throw more volume. And then Munoz would shoot in on more takedowns and just get stuffed. But it was a close fight. There was a lot of close fights on this fight card. Alex Munoz gets it done via decision. Moving up on the card, Azat Maksum versus Tyson Nam. Another razor close fight. This fight could have really went either way. I thought Maksum got it done. First round was razor close. Honestly, the strikes were like dead even. I thought Maksum landed a little bit heavier strikes, landed, a couple good teep kicks to the body. And then at the end of the round, Maksum got a takedown. And I really thought, I know people are going to say, oh, damage-based scoring. When it's dead even, you have to go to other criteria like effective grappling. And I thought Maksum took the first round. I thought the second round was razor close, and I thought the third round was razor close. Tyson Nam was doing a good job. He was throwing a lot, but a lot of it wasn't landing with a whole lot of power. And then in the third round, he had some moments in the clinch where he was landing good shots. Honestly, I think I scored it live. I think I had Maksum the first two rounds, and I think I might have gave Nam the third round, if I'm not mistaken, because Nam did land a couple good shots up in the clinch. But then even in the third round where it was kind of close, Maksum got a takedown to end the third round as well. So if you want to say it was dead even, you could give the third round to Maksum as well. But I think the right call is probably 29-28 for Maksum, winning the first and second round. But this was a razor close fight. I've been advocating, I think, more draws in MMA. I know it's not satisfying. This probably should have been a draw. I'm not saying based on the scoring criteria, but in my opinion, this fight is as close to a draw as you're going to get. It was a split decision for Maksum. Moving up on the card, we have Evan Elder versus Genaro Valdez. Evan Elder gets it done via unanimous decision. Just beat him up in this fight. I think he rocked him every single round, dropped him with a jab multiple times. In the second round, you maybe could give it to Valdez because Elder dropped him with a jab early in the second round, but Valdez hurt Elder badly in the second round. Caught him with a big shot, dropped him, ran after him, almost looked for a little bit. He might find a finish. But then eventually Elder just kind of recovered and got back to doing what he was doing, which was just outstriking him, landing the better shots, chopping the calf, just repeatedly throwing leg kicks, just outstriking him overall. And honestly, I thought you could give it to Evan Elder 30-27, but that second round is up for debate. Evan Elder just clearly the more well-rounded fighter. Striking looked like it had improved. The jab was just landing at will. And Valdez, he had some moments in this fight. He landed some good hard leg kicks as well. But Evan Elder's movement and his just well-roundedness won him this fight. Moving up on the card, Melquizael Costa versus Austin Lingo. I said it in the build-up to this fight. Austin Lingo is basically a Family Dollar Nate Landwehr. And that's what he showed in this fight. Costa just beat him up from start to finish, smashing body kicks, smashing head kicks, outstriking him every single round. And then I think in the third round, he outgrappled him for like the last minute or 2 minutes in the third round. So Austin Lingo just really took a beating in this fight. It was like Costa was just smashing body kicks. Lingo would drop his hands. He'd start throwing head kicks, land some head kicks. I'm surprised that Costa didn't get him out of there in this fight because he landed some hard shots. Austin Lingo was beaten up. He was battered. He really had nothing to offer. But he was tough. He was durable. He was plotting forward, throwing shots. But he was just eating kicks left and right from Costa. And really, this fight wasn't all that competitive. If Lingo wasn't as durable as he is, this fight would have been over way sooner than a unanimous decision win for Costa. But ultimately, Costa gets it done with his kicks. I think, that was the primary weapon he used in this fight. And he looked pretty good. I think Costa is actually an interesting prospect. I'm not going to sit here and say, he's a next champ or contender with a win over Austin Lingo. But it looks like the fundamentals are there. He's a very good kicker. He's a very good striker. And he even looked decent against Thiago Moises on short notice before he inevitably lost. But I'm interested to see where he goes from here. Moving up on the card, Viktoriia Dudakova versus Istela Nunes. This was nasty. Nothing really happened in this fight. There were some striking exchanges. Nobody really landed. I think Nunes landed one left hand, and I think Dudakova landed one left hand as well. I don't know why I keep mispronouncing her last name. But then Dudakova went for a takedown. Istela Nunes looked like she was stuffing it. Dudakova changed the angle, and Nunes tried to post up on her left arm, and her arm just literally snapped in half at the elbow. It was crazy. It was nasty. It was horrible to watch. And she suffered an injury. It was a first round TKO via injury. It was brutal to watch, but we really didn't learn anything about either one of these girls in this fight. Dudakova went for the takedown. There was an injury. She caused the injury, but we really didn't get to see the fight play out. I picked Nunes in this fight because I thought Dudakova wasn't that good. Her grappling was okay, but it was kind of overrated coming off the Dana White's Contender Series. But it ended so quickly, we really didn't get to see the fight play out, and we saw a horrible injury for Istela Nunes. It was hard to watch. Moving up on the card, we have Melsik Baghdasaryan versus Tucker Lutz. Baghdasaryan wins via unanimous decision, outstruck him for the majority of this fight. First round, he was striking Lutz. And then towards the end of the first round, I think maybe the last 2 minutes of the first round, Lutz was able to get him down and hold him down, but he did absolutely nothing with it. No damage. So I gave Baghdasaryan the first round. Second round, Baghdasaryan outstriking him again. Lutz looking for some takedowns. Lutz, I think, landed some body shots in the second round, landed some shots on the feet, but he was just getting out-kicked by Melsik Baghdasaryan and outstruck by Melsik Baghdasaryan. And then on some of the failed takedown attempts, they would end up clinched up, and Baghdasaryan was landing some good knees to the body. Third round, Lutz got him down and actually got his back with like one hook in, and I thought, okay, Lutz might actually do something with this. He might do some damage, land some good shots, maybe even find a submission. Baghdasaryan works back to his feet, starts landing some knees in the clinch, starts landing some short elbows in the clinch, and wins the fight via unanimous decision. The only thing in this fight that does suck for Lutz, he got kicked in the groin or punched in the groin, I think, in the second round, and he got eye poked either in the second or third round. So he was suffering from a lot of fouls in this fight, so it's unfortunate for him. But Lutz is probably on his way out of the UFC. Melsik Baghdasaryan beats him up. Lutz had the moments with the grappling, but couldn't capitalize. Couldn't find a submission. Couldn't find an advantageous position to land some ground and pound. Really landed no ground and pound in this fight. And just kind of stalled the position there and ultimately loses via unanimous decision. Moving up on the card, Nazim Sdykhov versus Terrance McKinney. I've been saying for a while, Terrance McKinney got overhyped off of a short, quick KO over Matt Frevola. And man, has Terrance McKinney been exposed badly. He loses via second round rear naked choke. He lands some shots early in the first round, gets a takedown early in the first round, ends up on the back with a body triangle. Sdykhov cannot get out of the position at all to save his life. Doesn't even look like he knows how to get out of the position. The round ends that way. Terrance McKinney never really did anything with it. Next round comes out, Terrance McKinney looks like he's going to try to wrestle again. Looking for a takedown, kind of just scrambling for takedowns. Sdykhov knows it's coming, looks to defend, ends up scrambling, ends up on the back of Terrance McKinney with Terrance McKinney's arm trapped behind him easily locks up a rear naked choke and taps Terrance McKinney. You know, in this fight, honestly, there were some egregious fence grabs, and I don't know if it really changed the outcome, but when they were in the scramble, Sdykhov was grabbing the fence, interlocking the fingers to kind of maintain the position. I don't really feel like he really pulled on the fence, but you can't be grabbing the fence like that. And then eventually when Terrance McKinney ended up in the seated position up against the fence, the reason his arm ended up getting trapped, I went back and watched it, is because he was trying to either push off or grab onto the fence to try to use that to scramble. And while he did that, he was kind of turning over, and then boom, Sdykhov took his back. The arm was trapped. Once his arm was trapped like that, I mean, I've never seen somebody in a position like that. I mean, you know how bad you have to mess up to end up with your arm literally parallel with your spine while somebody has your back with the hooks in. So, I mean, horrible position to be in, basically defenseless in terms of a rear naked choke defense. And Sdykhov finishes Terrance McKinney. Terrance McKinney gets finished twice in a row. The hype was way too high for Terrance McKinney just because he got a quick KO. The cardio, I mean, honestly, he didn't do much in the first round. All he did was have the back, had a body triangle. Sdykhov didn't even look like he was defending well. McKinney looked tired already in the second round. He looked tired. And it's just crazy the fall from grace for Terrance McKinney, because at one point, he almost beat Drew Dober on short notice. And I think Drew Dober might have even been ranked at that point in time, like 14 or 15 in the lightweight division. So to have this massive fall, I think Terrance McKinney's done for. I mean, he's getting finished by Bonfim, who went on to get finished by Saint Denis. And, you know, I know MMA math isn't everything, but now he gets finished by Sdykhov. And he gets absolutely bodied after the first round. Even in the first round, where he won the first round pretty clearly, he didn't do anything. He didn't land any damage. He didn't come close to a submission. So there's really no bright spots in this fight for him. He just flat out got beaten. He got finished again in the second round via rear naked choke and ended up in a horrible position. And he tried to fight smart. A lot of people thought Terrance McKinney's losing because he's not fighting smart. He's fighting crazy. I think he was having more success when he was fighting like a madman on the feet. So it's a crossroad for Terrance McKinney. I don't know where he goes from here. I don't know if he's ever going to reach that level that people thought he would at some point in time. And at this point in time, I think a matchup with him and Paddy Pimblett could go either way. At one point, I thought Terrance McKinney would kill him. At this point, who knows? Paddy Pimblett might be able to beat Terrance McKinney. That might be the fight to make in December or something like that when Paddy Pimblett can return. But Sdykhov gets it done. Second round, rear naked choke. Moving up the card, and actually that fight, the Terrance McKinney fight, was the first fight on the main card. Moving up on the card, my favorite fight on the entire card, Norma Dumont versus Chelsea Chandler. If you haven't watched this fight, go back and watch this fight. In my prediction video, I told you guys this would be an absolute barn burner, and boy, was that first round hilarious. The funniest exchange I've ever seen in MMA. Chelsea Chandler just trying to press Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont lands some big shots, just lights her up, hurts her badly. Chelsea Chandler turns her back. So literally, if you were looking at it from a certain angle, you could literally see Chelsea Chandler, and you would see her you would see her face, and then you wouldn't even be able to see Norma Dumont, because that's how parallel they were. She was literally, basically her shadow turned her back and sprinted away like Forrest Gump until she literally hit the fence of the cage. She was hurt so badly, she thought, I'm no longer in a fight. I'm a track star now. I'm going to run. And she just sprinted and just slammed into the... I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was hilarious. I know the memes are going to be all over the place. But Norma Dumont then after that eventually takes her down, controls her on the ground, beats her up on the ground. Same for the second and third round, basically. Chelsea Chandler just plotting forward, throwing big shots. Landed some of them, but Dumont would easily take her down. She had no grappling. Dumont was landing good shots on the feet. Chelsea Chandler was trying to win this fight, but Norma Dumont was too much for her. Norma Dumont wins via unanimous decision. And I'll never, for as long as I live, I'll never forget that exchange in the first round. She clipped her up with a good combination, hurt her badly, and she just sprinted. Honestly, if that cage wasn't there, if someone would have opened that gate, she would still be running to this day. She would still be running right now. It would have been like Forrest Gump, the movie. She would just still be running until she got old and then decided to stop running. There would have been people joining her. It was insane to see. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch the first round of Norma Dumont versus Chelsea Chandler. I've talked about it for a while, and I know people think I complain about it. The barrier of entry in the UFC is so low, guys. I mean, the fact that Chelsea Chandler's in the UFC and she got a finish win in her last fight, and now look what happened. And why is this at featherweight? What's going on with featherweight? Is this division even existing or what? Because Norma Dumont's talking about title shot. Daniel Cormier's talking about title shot. Well, I didn't know there was a division. The rankings don't exist. They haven't existed. Amanda Nunes, who was the fake champion, basically retired. I know people are going to say Nunes fake champion, but 45 didn't exist for a while now. So, I mean, who was she really reigning over? So how is this at featherweight? What's going on here? Why are we being forced to watch Chelsea Chandler on the main card? These are questions I need the answers to from Dana White at the post-fight presser. Moving up on the card, Jung Young Park versus Albert Duraev. Jung Young Park gets it done via second round rear naked choke. First round was close. Duraev was landing some good shots on the feet, some powerful shots on the feet. And, Jung Young Park was eating them, really, and he was just pumping the jab over and over and over again, and landed some good leg kicks as well. And then towards the end of the round, Jung Young Park caught a kick, tried to take Duraev down. Duraev kind of looked to pop back up and scramble, and Jung Young Park had a very tight guillotine at the end of round one. And I thought the round was so close, I thought maybe that tight guillotine attempt takes it for Jung Young Park, but the first round really could have went either way because Duraev landed some big shots. But the reaction from Young Park really wasn't like he got rocked or anything, and then he was pumping the jab, and it was just landing at will with the jab. And then after that first round, it was like, okay, are we going to see Duraev slow down? We've seen him slow down in the past, and of course, he starts to slow down, and Park just starts, you know what? I've ate his biggest shots. I've ate his most powerful shots. I'm just going to press forward. I don't care anymore. And he just pressed forward, crowded Duraev. Duraev was throwing big shots, landing some of them. No reaction from Jung Young Park. And Jung Young Park just throwing shots of his own, ripping to the body, pumping the jab, throwing leg kicks. Eventually just smashes Duraev, drops him badly. I think it was a right elbow and then a left hook. Drops him badly, follows him to the ground. Almost finds a rear naked choke multiple times. Doesn't get it. It looks like Duraev is going to survive and get out of the round. Then like the last 30 seconds of the round, 15 seconds of the round, Jung Young Park is landing little pitter-patter ground and pound shots. Duraev gets caught off guard. Jung Young Park rear naked choke second round. Albert Duraev looked very promising coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. He's a bust at this point. I mean, he doesn't have cardio, and when somebody crowds him and doesn't show him any respect, look what Buckley was able to do to him. So Jung Young Park, very impressive performance. Went out there, 8 shots, just pressed forward. His striking looked improved. He still does take far too many shots, but he could be a contender in the middleweight division. I never thought Dricus du Plessis would be a contender. And Jung Young Park's on a good winning streak. I'd like to see him against a top contender, maybe even a top 15 guy next. He went out there and absolutely put on an impressive performance against Albert Duraev, destroyed him and finished him in the second round. Moving up on the card, Francisco Prado versus Otman Azaitar. Another guy who at one point was a contender, who's been exposed multiple times now. Francisco Prado gets a first round TKO victory. It was a competitive fight. Prado was shooting in on takedowns. Azaitar was defending him. Azaitar was landing good shots on the feet, but so was Prado. Prado was crowding him, landing some good shots. Azaitar threw a heavy leg kick early in the fight. Prado checked it, cut open the shin of Azaitar. Azaitar was still looking good. It wasn't looking, amazing or anything, but he was landing good shots. He was ripping to the body. He was landing some good kicks. He was landing some good punches. Prado was shooting in on takedowns, wasn't able to get him. Good takedown defense from Azaitar, but Prado was just had his foot on the gas, and you could just tell he was there to win. He was just pressing forward, and you could see him kind of, start to wilt Azaitar. He was just really pressing him, and in that smaller cage, it really matters. There's not that surface area that you would have in the 30-foot cage. And now you're at the apex. Azaitar's getting crowded. Prado's throwing big shots, landing good shots of his own. And you could just see as he's kind of tracking down Otman, he's looking to spin. You could see him set it up multiple times. I think he even threw it once or twice in this fight. And then late in the first round, he ducks under, throws a spinning back elbow, lands on Otman Azaitar, drops him, just starts looking to finish him. The killer instinct was unbelievable. Nasty ground and pound shots, just vicious ground and pound shots. The referee gave Azaitar every chance to recover. Prado just kept throwing shots over and over and over again. At one point, it looked like Azaitar might be out. He made a weird face, and his eyes were kind of weird. His mouth was wide open. And then, right as the referee stepped in, Azaitar kind of got his foot on him and was like kind of pushing him off. But I think also it had to do, Prado could tell the referee was about to step in. So I think that moment created that. And Azaitar was complaining, I have no problem with the stoppage. Honestly, I think you could make an argument that it was a late stoppage, but I'm perfectly happy with the stoppage. Azaitar had every chance. You can't complain about a stoppage when you have absorbed 40 or 50 strikes. Probably a little bit of an exaggeration. You can't complain about a stoppage if you absorb 20 to 30 shots without responding. If you're supposed to intelligently defend yourself Absolutely no problem with the stoppage. Ottman Azaitar's career is done in the UFC. Francisco Prado at a very young age, was he 21, 22? Going out there and stopping Ottman Azaitar, I can't wait to see what the future holds for Prado. Looked fast, looked resilient, had a decent fight IQ, super athletic, didn't seem to gas at all, even though he's throwing a lot of ground and pound shots when the ref wasn't stop it. An unbelievable killer instinct. Prado gets it done. First round ground and pound TKO. Moving on to the co-main event, the fight probably most of you guys want to hear about. Jack Della Maddalena versus Bassil Hafez. What a crazy, unexpected war this was. And Jack Della Maddalena gets the split decision. And I think a lot of people are going to be upset about this decision. And I don't necessarily disagree with you. This was a very close fight. First round, Hafez immediately shoots on a double leg. Jack Della Maddalena looks to lock up a guillotine. Hafez immediately passes guard, controls him a bit. I think Jack Della Maddalena got back to his feet, but then Hafez just shooting it on takedown after takedown. Hafez landed some good bombs on his feet in the first round as well. He would mix up the striking, throw some bombs. Jack Della Maddalena would land a couple, and Hafez would land a couple. And then Hafez would get him down, control him. Got him down, controlled him for a large portion of the first round, even though it was multiple takedown attempts where Jack Della Maddalena would find his way back to his feet. And throughout this fight, Jack Della Maddalena kept looking for guillotine after guillotine on the takedown attempts. And I think it was horrible fight IQ. But I gave Hafez the first round. I thought the first round was pretty clear. He did some damage on the feet, landed some big shots. Even at one point, I thought he might have rocked Jack Della Maddalena or just kind of, stung him a little bit. But with the striking and the grappling mixed together, I thought Hafez clearly won round one. Round two is where it gets a little bit dicey because Jack Della Maddalena started to come on strong in round two. And there was actually a moment in this fight that a lot of people didn't notice. First off, it was bad reffing by Mark Smith and also borderline cheating by Jack Della Maddalena. But the second round, people forget because they remember the flurry right before the attempted guillotine attempt by Jack Della Maddalena. But the beginning portions of the second round was very competitive. Before the flurry by Jack Della Maddalena, it was very competitive. Hafez would land in big shots. Jack Della Maddalena was landing big shots. Eventually, it seemed like Hafez was starting to slow down, and he started shooting on desperation takedowns. Jack Della Maddalena defended him, was kneeing him in the head, kneeing him to the body, and then eventually there was another takedown attempt where Hafez was looking for a takedown, and his hands were kind of in the shorts. And he wasn't really pulling on them. There was no advantageous position where he was really pulling on the shorts at all. And Mark Smith's like, let go of the shorts, let go of the shorts. And I think it's because Jack Della Maddalena's corner was saying it. I could hear his corner saying, I went back and rewatched this. And so Hafez immediately just goes like this because he hears the ref let go of the shorts. He just takes his hands completely off and goes like this. And he's kind of already tired, doesn't get his hands up. Jack Della Maddalena starts smashing him up against the fence. And while he does it, he grabs his arm and his hand slides down. His thumb literally goes in the glove of Hafez and starts landing shots while he has his finger in the glove of Hafez. You can go back and watch it. It's there. It wasn't that egregious, but I did notice it when it happened. I noticed it when it happened live. And then Hafez is looking for another takedown. You have Jack Della Maddalena look for a guillotine again, ends up on his back, and Hafez controls him for the last 2 minutes of the second round. And I thought there's an argument to be made that the first portion of the second round was close enough. I thought Jack Della Maddalena just barely edged the first half of the second round. He was landing good shots. I thought maybe, if I had to put a percentage on it, that first half of the second round, I would probably say Jack Della Maddalena won maybe 65% of it because the other exchanges, striking exchanges, Hafez landed some big bombs in those exchanges as well. And then you had Jack Della Maddalena come on strong with the combinations against the fence and where he was grabbing the glove and the knees to the body and the knees to the head on the failed takedown attempts. But then you had the 2 minutes of ground control. And Hafez, I know he didn't do any crazy damage, but he was throwing some body shots and throwing little pitter-patter ground and pound. And I thought there was an argument to be made that you could give Hafez the second round. Now, me personally, I lean Jack Della Maddalena. I just thought he landed a little bit more damage. But I feel like people are going to say, oh, damage-based scoring. Jack Della Maddalena definitely won. Damage-based scoring, blah, 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 blah. People forget that literally Hafez was landing big shots early in that second round as well. I went back and rewatched it, specifically the second round before I did this video. I'm going to go back and rewatch it again because I have another Jack Della Maddalena video coming soon. But I do think there's a case to make that Hafez got the second round. Third round, all Jack Della Maddalena for the most part, smashing him. Looks like he's going to get a finish. And then towards the tail end of the third round, I think maybe the last 2 minutes, He hurts Hafez badly, looks to get his back, looks to get the hooks in, looks to flatten him out and finish him, ends up losing position and ends up with Hafez on top, and Hafez wasn't really able to do anything with it. The third round, honestly, if it was up to me, if I was scoring this fight, and I know you got to look at the scoring criteria and everything, I think this fight's a draw, honestly. Give the third round Jack Della Maddalena 10-8. Give second and first to Hafez. It was a very close fight. I've advocated I want more draws in MMA. The reason they won't do it is because it won't be satisfying to the consumer, to the customer. People don't want to see draws. But this is a draw if I've ever seen one. And Jack Della Maddalena, I'm going to make a whole video about this. He got exposed in this fight. And people are going to say, oh, double weight cut. Double weight cut makes you jump on guillotines multiple times throughout a fight when it's not, advantageous to you. That's what a weight cut makes you do. This isn't a fight where Jack Della Maddalena was dominating and then he gassed out. This wasn't a fight where Jack Della Maddalena just looked horrible from start to finish. A terrible weight cut, and even Jack Della Maddalena has come out since then and said the weight cut didn't bother me at all. But, he got taken down repeatedly. After seeing this fight, I would go with Sean Brady. I know Sean Brady has horrible striking, but I would go with Sean Brady. Bassil Hafez hasn't fought anywhere near the level of competition of some of these UFC guys, but this guy came to win. And we've talked about it recently because there's been a lot of short notice guys stepping in and winning fights against UFC guys. All the best fighters are not in the UFC. That is a mirage. The UFC has the deepest talent pool, but there is plenty of amazing fighters outside the UFC that can easily beat some of the mid-tier and low-tier and even some of the top-tier guys in the UFC. Jack Della Maddalena got exposed tonight badly. No takedown defense at all. I know he started to show it in the second and third round, but to get repeatedly taken down by Hafez, what would a guy like Shavkat Rakhmonov do to Jack Della Maddalena? What would a guy like Khamzat Chimaev do to Jack Della Maddalena? What would a guy like Kamaru Usman or Colby Covington or Leon Edwards do to Jack Della Maddalena? The guy has power in his hands, has great boxing, doesn't mix in a lot of kicks, and tonight we finally seen his grappling tested, and it didn't look good, and his fight IQ looked horrible. And people are going to say, oh, the weight cut, the weight cut, the weight cut. Okay, the weight cut made his fight IQ horrible. The weight cut made his takedown defense horrible. The weight cut made him have a great third round because his stamina was just fine. And that's usually what we talk about when we talk about a bad weight cut. And Jack Della Maddalena came out and even said, the double weight cut didn't affect me at all. He said that on the post-fight show. So I'm going to take the man who went through it at his word. Now, Jack Della Maddalena even said himself that he thought this fight could go either way. Now, again, I do not have a problem with the decision. I think anyone calling it a robbery, that is egregious. But I do think there is a case to be made. Hafez round 1 and round 2. And honestly, I would give round 3 10-8 for Jack Della Maddalena. I think he landed enough damage in that round to warrant a 10-8. So therefore, I would like a draw. But I did lean Jack Della Maddalena in the second round. And I did obviously give Jack Della Maddalena the third round. So therefore, I scored it for Jack Della Maddalena. I just want to talk about this because I know it's going to be a hot topic of conversation. But Jack Della Maddalena, extremely overrated by the MMA community. Unbelievable tonight that, and I know, he took a different opponent on short notice. Sean Brady's a grappler. Hafez came out and looked to grapple. And also, Hafez is on 5 days notice. Hafez took this fight on 5 days notice. So if you run this fight back, and I wish the UFC would run this back. I think that would be the way to go. They're never going to do it because they want to build Jack Della Maddalena in the Australian market. But Hafez on a full camp, I'm taking Hafez to beat Jack Della Maddalena. I'll be making a whole nother video on it. I'll link it down I'll comment it down below when I make that video later on tonight. Moving on to the main event, Mayra Bueno Silva versus Holly Holm. Thank you, Mayra Bueno Silva. No more Holly Holm main events. Thank you, MMA gods. Mayra Bueno Silva gets it done via second round submission. I guess it's a guillotine or ninja choke or modified guillotine, whatever you want to call it. Holly Holm looked like absolute dog shit tonight, guys. She looked like dog shit, and she's always kind of been like this. If she can't have her way with the striking, if she can't use her footwork and use her boxing, what she does is she just clinches up and stalls. We saw it in the Ketlen Vieira fight, and then she was complaining that she lost that fight. All she was trying to do in this fight was basically not fight. All she was trying to do was stall in this fight. First round, Holly Holm landed a few shots with no power on it. Mayra Bueno Silva landed the bigger shots. Holly Holm landed more volume. I thought Mayra Bueno Silva won the first round. Holly Holm would just clinch up because Bueno Silva was crowding her. She wasn't comfortable with that. And then Holly Holm would essentially just clinch up and stall the fight. Bueno Silva looked like she was having some problems with the strength of Holly Holm because Holm was able to hold her against the fence. But when they did exit, Bueno Silva was landing some big shots. And I thought because of those big shots and Holly Holm doing absolutely nothing otherwise, I thought Bueno Silva won the first round. Then you have the second round, basically the same thing. Basically the same thing in the second round. In that first round, there was 2 big left hands where I honestly thought Bueno Silva might have rocked Holly Holm. But in the second round, I think I said in the first round, that was in the first round that it happened. In the second round, similar thing, Bueno Silva throwing big power shots, landing some of them. Holly Holm just clinching up, looking to avoid the fight and not fight at all against Mayra Bueno Silva. Mayra Bueno Silva decides to make her pay for it and locks up a modified guillotine and chokes out 41-year-old Holly Holm and saves us from another Holly Holm title shot. Thank God, and please UFC and please MMA gods, no more Holly Holm title fights. Please, no more main events from Holly Holm. I can't handle it. If Holly Holm would have won this fight, I think they would have done Juliana Pena versus Holly Holm for the title. And the bantamweight division is just already atrocious. It's already an abomination. And if we had to watch Holly Holm in a potential main event against Juliana Pena, imagine they headlined a pay-per-view with that. Ew! I wouldn't have been able to deal with that. I absolutely wouldn't have been able to deal with that. Mayra Bueno Silva, maybe the one to save the bantamweight division. I have to be honest here. She looked very impressive tonight. I thought Holly Holm was just going to circle and win a boring decision and use her little clinch up, stalling tactic to win this fight. She wasn't able to do it because Mayra Bueno Silva came out here and looked to smash her on the feet. And Holm's like, oh no, I don't want to fight. Clinch up with me. I'm 41 years old. Please don't hit me. And Mayra Bueno Silva eventually made her pay for that because she kind of pulled out from the clinch and then kind of readjusted, left her neck there to be had, and Bueno Silva locks up that modified guillotine, that ninja choke, and submits her. Honestly, it was so tight. I thought she might choke Holly Holm out because Keith Peterson was on the wrong side. He was probably thinking about a pack of Marlboro Reds, and then he wasn't even adjusting to be able to see both hands, and she tapped, but Bueno Silva let it go before the ref even got there. So she was classy doing that, and Bueno Silva should be fighting for the bantamweight title next. I'm actually kind of excited now because we were looking at either Juliana Pena versus Holly Holm or Juliana Pena versus Raquel Pennington. Those were 2 ugly title fights, guys. They were really ugly title fights. But now Juliana Pena versus Mayra Bueno Silva sounds a little bit better, and I think Mayra Bueno Silva will smoke Juliana Pena, which makes me that much happier because Juliana Pena is the women's version of Colby Covington, except she actually fights. You know, she never shuts up. She's constantly saying cringy lines. She acts like she's a draw. She's acting like everyone's scared of her. And, I really didn't want to see her be champion again. You know, she acted like Nunes was scared of her, and that's why she retired. And I think Mayra Bueno Silva will go out there, and she will be your next bantamweight champion if she's able to get that fight. For whatever reason, I don't know why the UFC wouldn't give it to her after this dominant win over Holly Holm, but she should get the next title fight, and I do believe that she beats Juliana Pena for the women's bantamweight title. And at least we got, some fresh meat at the top of the division. Bueno Silva's kind of been like a dark horse in the division that nobody's really been thinking about. And I feel like most people, let me take a look at Tapology real quick. I feel like most people were picking Holly Holm. 70% of people on Tapology picked Holly Holm in this fight. I picked Holly Holm. My picks were horrible tonight, by the way. But Mayra Bueno Silva gets it done. I'm happy to be wrong on that one. And she does it impressively. I mean, think about it. When we were talking about, Holly Holm versus Mayra Bueno Silva, we're like, we're going to have to watch this for 5 rounds. Oh, no. Mayra Bueno Silva only made it last a little over, 2 rounds. I mean, not even over 2 rounds. It was like a round and a half. I don't know why I'm misspeaking tonight. But, yeah, she gets it done early in the second round. Super impressive by Mayra Bueno Silva, dealing with the non-wanting to fight tactics of Holly Holm, the stalling tactics of Holly Holm, and maybe this is the end of Holly Holm. There's going to be a decline. She got choked out by Bueno Silva. I think Holly Holm is done. Stick a fork in her. Overall, my picks were horrible tonight. I went 6 out of 13, and I really should have went 5 out of 13, maybe, because you could give it to Hafez over Maddalena. But tonight's fights this was a horrible card on paper. Wasn't that great in reality. The main card was pretty good. I don't want to crap on it too much, but these were some tough pick'em fights back and forth. But my picks overall were horrible. I'm never gonna hide from my picks. I know people will be like, "Ha, you got all these wrong." It is what it is. It's hard to pick MMA. I had a hot streak for like a year and a half. Okay, I get 50% on this one, or just over 50% on this one, or just under 50% on this one is what I mean. But overall, I enjoyed the main card. If you guys want to go see all my reactions to the fights, I did a live stream for this card. I'll link it down in the description. Let me know what you guys think. What you think of the Jack Della Maddalena versus Bassil Hafez. What did you think of the decision? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.